Welcome, everyone. Today we are diving into a comprehensive, expert-level overview of the AB 900 Microsoft 365 Copilot and Agent Administration Certification Exam. If you want to master AI governance in the enterprise, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Let's kick things off by understanding exactly what the AB 900 certification is. As artificial intelligence rapidly transforms the modern digital workplace, organizations are deploying Microsoft 365 Copilot to enhance productivity. But here is the critical challenge: AI is only as secure and effective as the administrative foundation beneath it. The AB 900 exam targets IT professionals who are tasked with this exact challenge. To succeed, you need more than just a surface-level understanding of Copilot. You must be intimately familiar with Microsoft 365 core services, identity and access management, and data governance. We are talking about managing workloads across Exchange Online, SharePoint, Teams, Microsoft Entra, and Microsoft Purview. Why does this matter? Because without well-defined processes, administrators will struggle with security and compliance gaps that ultimately slow down AI adoption and frustrate users. This certification proves that you can securely deploy AI, apply operational best practices, and govern custom AI agents effectively. Look at the diagram on your screen. It perfectly illustrates the prerequisite knowledge pathways leading to the AB 900 certification. As an IT administrator at the top, you cannot simply jump straight into AI. You must first route through three critical foundational pillars: Microsoft 365 core services, security and identity, and data protection. Only when these three streams converge do you have the necessary foundation to tackle the AB 900 exam. Ultimately, this leads to the final output at the bottom: true Copilot and agent governance. This visual roadmap is your study guide blueprint. Now, let's break down how you will actually be evaluated. The AB 900 exam is meticulously structured to test a holistic skill set. Notice the weighting: identifying core features of Microsoft 365 services makes up 30 to 35% of the exam. But the largest section, at 35 to 40%, is data protection and governance for Microsoft 365 and Copilot. Finally, performing the actual administrative tasks for Copilot and agents rounds out the exam at 25 to 30%. This distribution sends a very clear message from Microsoft: AI administration is fundamentally about data security. If your data is a mess, your AI will be a mess. You must score at least 700 to pass this exam, and keep in mind that you might see questions on common preview features, not just general availability features. You will need to know which admin center to use for which task, whether that is tweaking mailboxes in Exchange, adjusting policies in Teams, or handling permissions in SharePoint. This pie chart visually breaks down the exam weights we just discussed. The largest slice, representing 37.5% on average, is dedicated to data protection and governance. This represents your work in Microsoft Purview. The next largest slice is your M365 core features, representing your foundational knowledge of Entra ID, SharePoint, and Teams. The smallest, yet highly specific slice is the actual Copilot and agent administration. Master the big slices to secure your passing score. Let's dive deep into Pillar 1, core services and security. Before you even turn on Copilot, your house must be in order. The exam heavily tests the Zero Trust security model. Zero Trust assumes that internal networks are not inherently safe. Every access request must be explicitly verified regardless of location. You will need to understand how Microsoft Entra ID manages identities and enforces conditional access policies based on user risk and device health. Furthermore, Copilot does not bypass your existing security models. It operates under the exact same permission models as all other M365 services. If a user has access to a sensitive SharePoint site, Copilot will surface that data to them. This is why role-based access control, or RBC, is heavily tested. You must assign granular roles like Exchange admin or Teams admin rather than relying on the risky global administrator role. We also see a major focus on privileged identity management, or PIM, which provides just-in-time access for sensitive administrative tasks, automatically revoking those privileges when the work is done. This flowchart traces the zero trust journey of a user or admin in Microsoft 365. Starting on the left, every user or device request flows through Entra ID for explicit verification using conditional access. If the user is an administrator needing elevated rights, they pass through the Privileged Identity Management Gate for temporary access. Finally, they reach the Core Services Exchange, SharePoint, or Teams strictly limited by role-based access control. This is the exact flow you must understand for the exam. Moving to the heaviest section of the exam, data protection and governance. This is where Microsoft Purview becomes your best friend. The biggest risk with deploying Copilot is a concept called oversharing. Oversharing happens when users grant broader access to SharePoint content than intended, like sharing a confidential document with everyone. Because Copilot inherits user permissions, it will happily summarize that overshared document for anyone who asks. To combat this, the exam tests your ability to use Purview to apply sensitivity labels and data loss prevention, or DLP, policies. Copilot completely respects Purview labels. If a document is labeled confidential, Copilot will exclude it from responses unless the user has explicit rights. You must also know how to use Data Security Posture Management, or DSPM, for AI. DSPM allows you to discover where AI-generated content is stored, detect if Copilot is interacting with sensitive data, and monitor Copilot's data access patterns to catch any shadow AI usage. This sequence diagram maps out how Purview protects data during a Copilot interaction. When the user prompts Copilot, Copilot requests files from SharePoint. Before handing data over, the system checks Microsoft Purview's sensitivity labels and DLP policies. Purview blocks any data the user isn't authorized to see, ensuring SharePoint only returns compliant, secure data back to Copilot. Copilot then generates a safe, governed response for the user. It is a seamless, secure cycle. Now we enter the third pillar, performing actual Copilot administrative tasks. First, you must know how to assign licenses. The exam heavily favors group-based licensing through Microsoft Entra ID to reduce administrative overhead and ensure consistency. You will also be tested on billing models, specifically comparing flat-rate licensing to pay-as-you-go consumption. With pay-as-you-go, you must use Azure Cost Management dashboards to set budgets and alerts to prevent cost overruns. Next is adoption monitoring. It is not enough to just buy licenses. You must track who is an enabled user versus an active user. Remember, for the exam, an active user is someone who performs an intentional action, like submitting a prompt, not just someone who clicks the Copilot icon. You will use the Microsoft 365 Admin Center for operational triage and the Copilot dashboard in Viva Insights to measure actual business impact, like time saved on meeting summaries. Finally, you must govern Copilot prompts to prevent fragmented experiences and protect sensitive workflows. Here we see the operational tree for Copilot administration. At the top, Copilot operations splits into three main duties. License assignment is handled efficiently using group-based licensing in Entra ID. Billing management requires setting up alerts for pay-as-you-go consumption in Azure. And for usage and adoption, admins use the M365 Admin Center for daily triage and Viva Insights for deep dive analytics on productivity. This is your daily operational playbook. Beyond standard Copilot, the exam dives deep into agent administration. Agents are intelligent software tools customized for specific workflows. You must distinguish between agent types, pre-built agents, like researcher or analyst, SharePoint agents scoped to specific site content, and custom agents built in Copilot Studio. Governance here is critical. You will use the Agent 365 control plane within the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, known as the Agent Registry, to oversee all agents. The exam will test your understanding of the approval lifecycle. When a developer submits an agent, an AI administrator must review its data access requirements, permissions, and compliance alignment before publishing it. If an agent misbehaves, you can block it, which stops it tenant-wide, or delete it entirely. Also, remember that agents built in Copilot Studio live in Power Platform environments. Users must have a Copilot Studio license and the environment maker role to build them. This diagram walks through the precise agent publishing lifecycle. The developer builds the agent in Copilot Studio and submits a request. This request lands in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, where the AI admin reviews the permissions and data scopes. If approved, the agent is published to the agent store for users. If rejected, it goes back to the maker. Once live, the agent is continuously monitored via the Agent 365 control plane. Know this flow inside and out. To confidently pass AB 900, you must understand the underlying data architecture. How does a prompt actually work? When a user types a prompt in Word or Teams, it goes to the Copilot orchestrator. The orchestrator doesn't just send this raw text to the AI, it performs grounding. It queries Microsoft Graph to retrieve contextually relevant emails, files, and chats that the user is explicitly authorized to see. This enriched, Grounded prompt is then sent to the large language model hosted securely in Azure OpenAI. This is a crucial exam point. The data never leaves the Microsoft 365 service boundary. Prompts, responses, and graph data are encrypted in transit and are absolutely never used to train public foundation LLMs. This semantic indexing by graph is what makes Copilot highly relevant to your specific business tasks, while strictly adhering to your existing Entra ID and Purview security policies. Let's trace the data visually. In Step 1, the user submits a prompt from their app. In Step 2, the Copilot orchestrator queries Microsoft Graph. Graph returns the user-accessible, grounded context in Step 3. In Step 4, the orchestrator sends this highly enriched, secure prompt to the Azure OpenAI LLM. The LLM generates the response in Step 5, and finally, the orchestrator formats and delivers it back to the user's app in Step 6. Secure, fast, and compliant. Let's apply all of this to a real-time, highly practical use case you might see on the job or on the exam. Imagine your HR department wants to build an onboarding agent for new hires. As the administrator, your first step isn't in Copilot, it's in Purview. You must ensure HR documents have strict sensitivity labels applied so the agent doesn't accidentally expose executive salary data to a new employee. Next, the HR maker, who has a Copilot Studio license and Environment Maker role, builds the agent. They submit it for publishing. You, acting as the AI administrator, go to the Agent 365 registry in the M365 Admin Center, review the requested Microsoft Graph permissions, and approve it. You then assign it specifically to the new hires Enter security group. This end-to-end scenario proves you understand security, development, and deployment. Finally, regarding exam logistics, aim for a score of 700 or higher to pass. Remember that this certification expires annually, but you can renew it for free via an online assessment on Microsoft Learn. Best of luck on your AB 900 exam. This final flowchart maps our real-world HR use case. It all begins with data governance, applying Purview labels to HR data. Then, the maker builds the agent and submits it. The critical checkpoint is the AI admin reviewing permissions in Agent 365. Once approved, it is safely assigned via an Enter group. This guarantees a safe, compliant AI rollout, demonstrating exactly why your role as an administrator is critical to enterprise AI success.